G'day everyone and welcome back to the Club Esports series. Thanks to AusCycling. We've got a super sprinty course today. We're on the Sprinters Playground in Makuri Islands. There is 4 sprints inside the first 8 kilometres. It's going to be mayhem. Can't wait to see the action. Of course, this is the Club series, so it's Club versus Club. We're all across the grade, so A grade through to D grade, where everybody can contribute points to their club and we can see who comes out on top. And at the moment, as it stands, last year's carryover champs at the Watopia Masters Cycling Club, they're leading the charge, trying to go back to back. Second place, we've got the Bathurst Club, and then, of course, Randwick in third. So those are your top 3. There's plenty of time, plenty of points to move up. And with a new added bonus point structure into these last 6 rounds, it's going to make it extra interesting. So each sprinting and point segment throughout the courses are going to be up for grabs and extra points are on offer. So it's going to be fastest or first across the line or fastest through each segment. So it means that every segment you must be sprinting for. So even if the riders might be dropped off the back, it means they're still going to try and register their fastest time to get the bonus points for their club. So it's going to be starting with the racing soon. And I think the men's are kicking off first. So we'll see them right about now. And how about that for an opening ceremony? Just seeing the arcade there as well on board with A. Windsor. So really cool. This is just a beautiful landscape here with the Nyoko course, one of my favourite courses. In fact, going to Japan next year. So I wish this was in real life. But look, really nice looking bunch here, a bunch of 17, so a nice little group. And we're going to see the first sprint at about 2Ks to go. And this is it. This is 300 metres. Now, this is a super, super long sprint. We're seeing Adam Benrose chip off the front early, or he's getting a little bit of a jump there. And look for him. He's super fast. Got a big sprint as well, Adam Benrose, in the sort of 15 or 13.5 watts per kilo mark. Other sprinters to look out for, we want to be looking for Mitchell Stewart on his Zwift power, registering over 1,200 watts for 15 seconds. So the sprints are going to be pretty feisty, and it's going to be about timing your sprint as well. So bunch has been pretty quickly, 47k an hour. N Campbell's up the front there, still on board with a Windsor. We've got, of course, Nick Squilari there, really very keen Zwifter. You can see M. Zito, that's Mitchell Zito. He's one kick. So look for him in the sprints. We're not far away from the first sprint, being 1 kilometre into the course. But to run through the course that we've touched on, this is the Sprinters Playground. It's about 12.3 kilometres in length, and we're going to be doing 2 laps. So both the men and the women are going to be doing 2 laps, and you can see the sprinters approaching. There is the archway in the top right-hand corner. You can see the map. We are not far away from the first kick of the day. Now, the question is, who is going to kick first? There is the marquee. Remember, it's fast improvement. So it looks like no one's opening up just yet. T. Stevenson, let's have a look and see who's going to open up. We've got 2 out the front. Jay Fowler, Adam Benrose is going now. Adam Benrose, super fast, really experienced Zwifter, and it looks like he is going to come over the line first. Velikix, Mitch Zito is there. Squilari, not far away as well. So the fastest time there is actually what we see coming up on the left-hand side with the segment, the sprint segment. So it looked like we might have seen Mitch Zito get that one. That's a nice little pickup for him as well, just getting over Adam Benrose for the fastest time. He's one to look out for. Not the strongest in the watts per kilo segment, around the 4.5. But one with a super strong kick for a perfect circuit for Mitch Zito. Now, this is the women's. We've got A's and the B's together. Really good to see a great contingent in the women's as well. I think the D grade lineup for the women's club series is the strongest field of them all. So that's really good to see. Remember, everybody in all the grades is contributing points to their club standings. So really good to see. Now, A and B combined, we've got 3 women registered as sort of A grade competitors. We've got Marjan McGarry from the Randwick Cycling Club and Valen Panagua from Randwick as well, two A-grade registered riders. And the rest are all sort of sitting in that B category, but serious riders in the B category. We've got Jen Arnold there on board. Really cool to see as well. We've got the onboard footage. We can see them just on the chat as well. Look at that. Jen Arnold's cadence is matching on her hands from her legs there as well, just on the text. You get pretty good at the at commenting through when there's a bit of chat happening. But it looks like we might have missed the first sprint for the ladies. And judging by the green jersey on Jen Arnold, she was the one taking through the first through the segment. So the women now just passing through, looking to get to the next segment, which comes, let's have a look. Where is it? It's around about the 3.5 kilometre mark. So we should be seeing the segment coming up soon. Now, who's got some fast sort of sprint fibres in them today? As I mentioned, Valen Panagua from the E-Randwick. We can see her in the screen with a Colombian flag, I think. And who else? There's sort of someone else got a good little power up out here. Pete B, Audrey Braun, McGarry as well, Marshall McGarry. Kate Spice, who we know is fast. And look, we see there's a sprint already, just starting to open up now. Jen Arnold pulling ahead now, 7.3 watts per kilo. This is big power here. Now, is anyone going to come out of the draft? There's someone in the Strong bike. Not sure who that is, but they might be coming over the top, and they've gone through it. We'll see. It looks like it was Marjan McGarry taking out the second sprint with Jen in the second place. So straight away, Randwick, who are, by the way, sitting in third place in the club standings, they are getting some early points on the women's side. So good to see Jen there, our on-board rider, putting out the points for us in real time. Over in the men's, let's see how they're tracking. They're about 400 metres ahead of the women's in this course. One of my favourite sections of the Dioko course through this little park boardwalk, a really nice section there. But they're moving pretty quickly, about 44 k's an hour, all bunched up. Doesn't look like anyone has dropped off, and the same with the women. So all bunches are together. The next sprint isn't far away. There is 3 sprints in the first 5k. That is absolutely brutal. This is basically a sprint workout. So everyone that wants to work on their anaerobic output as they hit the next sprint point on the right-hand side with the men's, this is the course for you. Now, have a look at these power outputs. Will Hodges opening up, and Campbell as well kicking. Nick Scolari just waiting a little bit. A lot of riders have gone a little bit too early. I think Hodges has gone too early, that's for sure. Power outputs are being used. Someone's got a feather spewing. If you have the feather, you want the truck or you want the aero helmet. Now here come the real sprinters. Stevenson's there. Where is Mitch Zito? Looks like Scolari there from the Aero Cycling Club is there, but Ben Rose is coming late. Looks like it was too late. It was actually Jay Fowler. Very, very good there. Find out what his first name is there, Mr. Fowler. But here come the women. About passing through the markets there. Love this little section. And great little bit of graphics here as well. And I wonder, Jen versus, who was the lady who came first in the last one? Marjan McGarry. We've got a flyer here. Is this Jen off the front? It is. Jen Arnold with McGarry behind. A huge gap. Absolutely gapping the field. And how about Randwick there? It's second and in third place. Thanks to McGarry and then Audrey as well. Some really good points being mocked up. Remember, there's points for your club every single sprint. So the bonus sprints offered up here really give you a chance to, build your points up, even if you're not taking first place at the end of this race. Now, they've completed 3 sprints. There is 1 left, and they still haven't done more than 6 kilometers. This is absolutely awesome. The next sprint is coming at about 7.6 kilometers. So the bunch now can have a chance to relax. We'll see them bunch up as we've seen just now. It should really be strung out for the next 2 or 3 Ks. A chance for everyone to just get their just have a bit of a rest, sort of spin their legs out a little bit as well, and recharge before the next sprint. And I wonder if we'll see anyone try a move from a distance perhaps and try and get the jump on the bunch and forget about the sprint and maybe go for the win. That'll be really interesting. So someone could attack from the bunch, stay away to the finish. They might not register the fastest time through the sprints, but perhaps the bunch might sit up and say, oh, there's no point chasing them. I want to save myself for the sprint. So there might be an element of tactics in play there for bunches. But look, it's racing's just had a bit of a lull here, chance for everyone to catch their breath. I mean, if you've done three 15 to 20-second sprints in 9 minutes of yeah, that's right. If you've done 9 minutes of racing, 3 maximum sprints, your heart rates are going to be absolutely maximum, and you can see that already in the top left-hand corner. You've got who we're on board with on the men's with Jay Fowler there, 177 beats per minute, and they're just ticking over at 200 watts. So it'll take a while for that heart rate to go down. Same in the women's. Jen's 155 beats per minute as they hit that downhill little section there on that hot mix as well. Look at that little bike lane. Another bike lane here in Australia. Absolutely awesome. But look, we'll just have a look at some of the other competitors on here that might be saving their dues for the final win. Now, of course, the sprint is a big moment as the men are approaching the next sprint. Remember, they're sort of going up through the rooftops here as well. We can see Nick Squilari from, of course, Velokicks at the back there in the aero racing kit. And of course, they're recruiting at the moment, I understand. So if you're a prominent racer or a young rider looking to push their development and use Zwift as part of that, you can head to the Aero Racing Instagram page, and I think they've got the details on signing up or registering your interest in joining the team. They've got so they've got a development team, and of course their sort of elite Premier League team. So certainly worth a look if you're wanting to test yourself, as they're just hitting the railway sprint. That is not far along. The men have now hit the segment, so the segment's being timed right now. Looks like Nick from Velokicks, Squilari is going a long bomb. He's hit the bunch with a really nice speed differential. Now, Adam Benrose hasn't quite lit it up yet. Someone has got the aero power up. He's got the draft boost, Mr. Velokicks. Fowler not far behind. Now he's got the aero boost as well, and he's in the draft. Does Fowler have enough to get around? He does, and I think he might get the fastest through the segment with the aero power up, but we'll wait and see. Yes, he did. Not much in it. Only 0.32 of a second in there. Nick Squilari not far behind. Hosking is also up there as well. And you can see it looks like it's going to be a 2-horse race for these sprints. Fowler and Squilari, and Velokicks, that is, are the two really contesting that. Now, Nick Squilari there hit the bunch with a lot of speed. As you can see, they were just sort of sitting up a little bit, and he had a really nice boost out of that bunch. Perfect if you're trying to get a bit of a breakaway. But as we look at the women's, let's have a look how this will play out. Looks like we've got a flyer already. Is this who I think it is? No, this is, of course, the Colombian, I think, or it could be Venezuela, South American-esque, Valen Panaguia from the Randwick Cycling Club. She has got a huge lead. I wonder, will she be fastest through the segment? She may have broken away early, but you can see the bunch is really closing in on her. She's not falling away. 4 watts per kilo. Look at the power outputs on the right-hand side. She's going to go over the line first, but with a lot of speed was Jen Arnold. And it looks like fastest through the segment. We'll get that name up in a second. I'm not sure. Yeah. El Peaches. That certainly not El Peaches. But sorry for bombarding. Don't have her on my list just here, but El Petich looks like she's taken the fastest through the segment. So there you go. It's starting to even up now. We'll find out what club she's racing for very soon. And they're just about to tick over 10 kilometres. So the racing's been pretty good. We've seen two outstanding sprinters in the men's, of course, being Nick Scolari, Adam Benrose is there, Mitch Zito has been up there, and Jay Fowler. And then in the women's, a bit of a mixed bag. We've seen Jen Arnold, she's taken 2, and Elle Peach as well, or Petech, taking the other. So about, I'd say another 4K until the next sprint, because remember the first sprint is 2Ks into the lap, so they're not far off the first lap of the sprint playground. It's a very good crit course if you do race this one during the week on Zwift, which, by the way, put in the comments if you're enjoying the coverage. We're having a few technical difficulties with our, of course, co-host Kate Bates. She won't be too far away, but put in the comments if you're getting on to the Zwift Academy. Remember, you can register for the Zwift Academy this week. The orientation rides have started, and then I think the workouts are starting next week, so that is absolutely perfect. And it's really exciting to see the Academy start up once again, and I'm really interested to see who's going to be in the finals this year. I've got my eye on a few of the athletes from the Musaka Cycling Club, the Ugandan cycling project. There is a couple of male athletes in there who race in the A-grade category, and some of them are extremely fast. So I think they're a chance of making at least the semis and putting in finals positions, a few of those athletes. So keep up the good work, Musaka Cycling Club. They're doing really good work there out in Uganda. Now, look at the racing. 10Ks have played for both the men's and the women's. The men's are about 11.5 Ks in, so almost finishing their first lap, just chinging along at 45 kilometres an hour. The women as well, chipping along pretty quickly, 44 Ks an hour. All together, no splits in the peloton. I thought maybe the sprints 3 and 8 kilometres or 3 and 9 minutes might split the bunch up. But no, it looks like everyone's kind of together. Yeah, there'll be an element inside the bunch of riders who are just trying to hang in there. Remember, this is the A-grade bunch. And speaking of A-grade, it looks like we've got a co-host back. Katie.
Hello, am I here?
Bless us with your presence, Katie. Here she is as I enter the best part of the course, the arcade. That's fun, just like Katie. How are you?
Oh, I'm great, man. I'm sorry that I've had a few tech issues on my end,
well,
but good to be back.
She's not quite there.
Right in the
just passing through this arcade
now.
A chance, if you haven't ridden the arcade section in Nyoko, I recommend you do and have a look at all the arcade games in there. There's the Sheba Shuffle in there as well. That's my favourite game. The Dance Dance Revolution. There's a lot of little Easter eggs in there for everyone to look at, so definitely worth a look on your next recovery ride. But yes, the bunch just cruising along and about to finish the first lap of the Sprinters Playground. Negative.
Jet, how are you going?
Katie to come through, but not at this moment.
No, okay, I'm here, but
good
no
little
one
field
can
from the women's as well. 13 right, they're rolling along pretty nicely. You can see there's a few experienced Zwifters there, some with a Tron bike as well. Remember, the Tron bike's a dead giveaway of a very experienced Zwifter. It's if you haven't unlocked the Tron bike or you're unaware on how to, it's a big mission. You've got to, I think you have to choose the challenge of Everesting, which is climbing the amount of meters equivalent to the height of Everest. Now, once you do that, 8,800 meters, I believe it is. Once you then climb accumulatively over a period of rides, however long it takes you, you unlock the Trekker-Monda. But what people do is they actually change the challenge on Zwift to something else once they've completed it. But you've got to leave it on and get to 50,000. That's how you get the Tron bike. Now, Kate, are you with us?
I think I am, Jet. Am I here?
We hear ya. We hear you, Kate. I've just put 50,000 people to sleep. Just taking them through their ASMR routine.
At least we've upped our audience. And I came in at a pretty exciting time, didn't I? I can't believe how, I mean, we knew that this was going to be a really quick course and that they would jet around, very much like your name there, Jet. But even quicker than I had have imagined, actually. And these powers, we don't usually see powers consistently sitting over 200 when they're just chugging along. It tends to be more attack based when we're seeing the high powers. But there really isn't a moment on this course, is there, where they can just sit back and do. There will always be some riders that are having to push the pace a little bit. And look at the men; they are absolutely getting stuck into it and flying.
Yeah, ripping it, aren't they? They just went through their first of 3 sprints coming up in 5 minutes. Everyone was holding on to their little aero helmet power ups. It was, yeah, it was pretty quick, and it was Jay Fowler, I think, taking out the fastest time yet again, or a Squalari.
Well, that is. It is with there's Nick Scolari back, Mr. Velo kicks himself. We have spoken about different sprints and of course the different uses of power-ups. I'm a very big fan of aero power-ups for sprints because I think it's just all about the timing that you use them, whether or not it is. I also think the feather is a very good power-up for a sprint, even though some people ditch it and don't agree with me. But I reckon give it a go if you haven't. For Campbell, the first significant break, I'm going to.
Well, it is a very good breakaway attempt. This is what I was talking about earlier. Would someone throw the sprints away and try and go for the win in this sort of last lap? So them passing through now, they may go first across the line for the sprints, but they won't get fastest through the time. Now, here is the women's sprint. We have Elle Petitch as well there sitting there. We're on board with her. Jen Arnold now, look how many green jerseys she got. She's like Peter Sagan at the Tour de France. Now she's having a war with Gary from the Randwick Cycling Club, who's got too much power at 9 watts per kilo. She's going to take the fastest through the time as well. Who was in second place? Looks like Panaguia as well. And Jen Arnold in second or third there as well. So the Randwick Club really taking a lot of points. That was a great sprint. Look at all those jerseys just stacked up next to Jen's name. A bit like the screen behind me, of course, which is green. So that's one of 3 sprints coming up for these fast women. Super quick. There's a couple of rides, and look at Campbell. The men have just gone through their second sprint, I believe. That was the Castle Park sprint. Looked like Scolari took that one again, but it's still Campbell out in front. Nathan Campbell, so he's got an FTP of around, or a 20-minute power of around 4.5 watts per kilo. He's got a pretty decent weight for Zwift as well, sitting in that 77 kilo mark. I mean, that's another 15 kilos on top of me. I wouldn't mind some of that on these flat courses. Look at him humming at about 5.5 watts per kilo. Everyone else in that bunch is just trying to recover from those sprints. So I'm a big fan of this, Nathan. Just putting it to the gauntlet there. He's got the Reich set up on the Zwift as well. He's got the Venge with the DT Swiss disc, super fast setup for a flat course like the Sprinters Playground. It looks like he's getting brought back by Brendan Bauer. Now, Brendan Bauer, you can see there in the third from the top. He's another curious rider and one who like this course at all. With a weight of around 62 kilos, no sprint out of a paper bag like myself, with a max sort of 15-second sprint of around 800 watts. He'll be waiting for the hillier circuits, but he's got a super high 20-minute in that 5 kilo mark. So Mr. B. Bauer, Brendan, will be seeing him, I think, in some of the hillier courses across the club series for the next 6 rounds. So look out for him. Ben Rose has counted, and now he's off the front. That's a very interesting move. Adam Benrose is one of the strongest in the race in terms of raw power. So him off the front, well, that is a certain concern for the overall victory of this race as he goes through this sprint segment. Now, remember, he's not going to get the fastest time here because he's not absolutely pumping it through the segment, but he is going to keep his gap the fastest through the segment is going to happen behind him. We can see a few orange numbers lighting up. That is an indication the sprint is occurring. Jay Fowler, Windsor having a bit of a battle royale behind. As we can see there with Will Hodges, that's who we're on board with. What a vantage point as well. And it looks like Jay Fowler had taken that one out. But Adam Benrose has still got a pretty sturdy gap. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone else can get across to him and see if we've got a bit of a breakaway happening because there's not long to go. Remember, there's only about 5 or 6 kilometres left for the men, and the women are not far away from their next sprint as well. But at the moment, it's Jen Arnold absolutely going gangbusters. Look at all those bloody jerseys. She does. She's got them all. Like you haven't paid for your excess baggage when you're at the airport. You've got to put all your T-shirts on at once and get on the plane. It's a little bit like that. So the women still
I think
all together.
I might be back.
You can see. Yes, Kate. Kate is back just in time for the next sprint on the women's side, I believe. And have a look at Jen. She's a machine.
Yes. Oh, she looks pretty comfortable given how well she's been performing. I think body language is always a really interesting thing, and you might commentate slightly differently if you could see them a little bit more often. How good is it to have rider cam though? Anna on production doing an absolutely brilliant job. I'm loving having the NRS back. PS, we had a little bit of a break, so we're technically on race 7. I just think it's sensational. We've got some new faces now too.
Yeah, absolutely we have. Anna's doing a great job, and there's plenty of new riders here that I haven't seen from the first 6 rounds, Kate. So they're about to enter the next sprint. Who I want to see have a bit of a go here is Kate Spicy, but I think she's holding back for the finale of the race.
Well, there's some utility in that as well. I guess there's some different ways to attack this kind of racing, and we know that there's a lot of intermediate sprints. But also worth considering that regardless of where the prestige maybe lies in point collecting or overall, we know that first across the line is always kind of go. But look at that, McGarry. What an acceleration over the top there. That was pretty impressive.
Marja McGarry, that was big power. She hit over 12 watts per kilo there in that sprint. She saved some beans for that.
Yes.
Now, over to the men's, we've got, looks like Scolari's now over on the offensive. They've just had another sprint, I understand. We've got 2 of the strongest competitors in the men's out front. In fact, it's a group of 3. We've got Nick Scolari there. We have Adam Benrose and then T. Stevenson. That is Trent Stevenson. All 3 of these riders have a 20-minute power of over 5 watts per kilo. This is seriously dangerous for the bunch, and they've already got 5 seconds, Kate, as they hit this little ramp going up to the rooftops.
Yeah, 5 seconds could be nothing, but they're a little bit out of sight, out of mind on the twisty turnies on this course. And as you said, they're all they're very powerful riders. Heck, if you're watching the Vuelta last night, Marc Soler won by 4 seconds. So 5 seconds is definitely enough, even if it doesn't get too much further. But look, we can't even see the bunch in the background, which means that depending on which view they're looking, they're not going to be able to see these 3 either. And if we cast our eye back, and you might need spectacles depending on what size of screen you're watching if you're not in Zwift Power, but it's not as though the bunch are sitting up and doing nothing. They're actually hauling butt a bit too and chasing. So that makes this even more impressive that this gap is still opening up a little bit. 8 seconds, 9 seconds.
Yeah.
It's definitely dangerous.
You're right, Kate. They actually are chasing. Good to see. Not like we saw at some of the racing earlier in the NRS where I sort of blew my lid off a bit at no one chasing. The Group 2 syndrome, as they call it. In fact, speaking of the Vuelta last night, there was plenty of the Group 2 syndrome going on with Soler up front. But, these 3 are working really nicely together. And they're very experienced Zwifters, the 3 up front. So they'll know how to save a lot of energy, have the avatar at the front. Then they know that when they're sitting in the wheel, they can let off a little bit. We're seeing sort of, that sort of 2-3 watts per kilo sitting in the wheel. And they're really good at getting the powers right and alternating turns. It can be a little bit difficult to get the breakaway going in Zwift, or if you have 1 rider or 2 who are more or less experienced than the other. But these three, they know how to ride. So there's only I think there's 2 or 3 kilometres left for these riders of the men. So not long to go. They'll be thinking about the final sprint.
They will be. It looks like the group has clawed its way back to them. Previously, we used to think that it was about a 15-second gap before you had any hope in Zwift, but actually times have changed a little bit as the level of riding and racing experience has actually increased a little bit. Now, there is still a gap about 7 seconds back to the, but there's not beautiful cohesion out front either. We've had someone jump across, in fact.
Wow, someone bridged.
And
wow,
so Brendan Brower. So I think that this is an interesting, Kyle Marwood, pardon me. This is an interesting, they're pretty close to finish. Nobody's going to take their foot off the accelerator at this point.
No, not at all. They're starting silly buggers now. What a bridge from Marwood. I mean, he must be absolutely melted from that move now. Now, 22 Ks to go. There is about 24.6 kilometres is the final distance. So this 4, they've still got to keep the pedals on. Second gap now. It does look like the bunch has kind of consolidated for 5th place. So enjoy that chocolate medal. But these 4, well, yeah, it's going to come down to who's got the best sprint. And I think from a lot of the other club series races, the first 6, Kate, Adam Benrose, he has to be contender number 1.
Oh, you'd think so. But, I wouldn't write off Kyle Marwood either. Look, there's been a little bit of conjecture in the last couple of days about the wonderful Wout van Aert and his sprinting capabilities when sprinting in a bigger bunch versus a smaller bunch. And I bring that up because I think it is interesting to, one, look at the data and say this is who should win. But sometimes the dynamics are a little bit different in a smaller group versus a bigger one. And Benrose has had to really truck along to keep this break going. So that may have taken the shine off his legs a little bit. Let's take a look at the women's race in the final sprint. McGarry seems like she's just found a new set of legs for the back end of this. Jet, because look at her go. She is probably not being as efficient as she could be, but perhaps she's just going to keep going and see if she can go solo. She's certainly very easily taken that out.
Yeah, it looks like Jen's blown up. She certainly put the clutch in, that's for sure. 0.0 watts per kilo flatlining. Yep, she's absolutely cooked. Hey, she's done all right for the Rambrook Cycling Club because she's absolutely collected a basket full of points for them. She's done such a good job. It was wicked seeing her online, but she's blown up. McGarry has big second half, so I think I'm really excited to see what Kate Spicy can do. She's been sort of sitting back. She might be a bit like me where she only cares about the win. Maybe that's what everybody remembers, but we're going to head to the men now, Kate, where there is about 500 metres to go and they're all foxing.
Ooh.
I'm surprised that Velokicks, Mr. Nick, hasn't had a punch yet.
Mr. Nick, Mr. Velokicks. He's probably the most experienced out there, but he's not the fastest necessarily. Adam Benrose is the one that people will be looking at. He's leading out. In fact, it looks like they're playing a little bit of cat and mouse behind him, dropped a power up. It is Nick Squilari who's having to do most of the work to chase him back. Where is Kyle Marwood and his acceleration? They're certainly running out of time here, but here comes Marwood.
Here he comes.
Woo! I knew he was capable of a big sprint, but I think Benrose just got his helmet sucked off, to use technical terminology. Jet?
That was an absolutely rapid acceleration. I mean, is the line coming up or has it already passed? It is coming up. He's still at the front. I think we all thought it was. We all thought it was finished, but he's already got.
He hopes it's coming up. It was. I think he. To be honest, I'm not sure he timed that because that was very early to go. If he realised, but equally, Benrose tried to use that little kick up to go, and I think that pretty perfectly kind of highlights exactly what we were talking about before. On paper, you might see one thing, but racecraft is a different. So
Yeah.
smashing ride by Marwood. Good on him. That was a
That
cracker.
was it was because he bridged across to the break. He crossed a 4 or 5 second gap very quickly. I mean, almost like Soler last night at the Vuelta, where he just chipped across that 2 minute gap, like everyone had sort of parked their bikes on the side and were taking photos. But there isn't long to go now in the women's. It's going to be really interesting now that we know where the finish line is, which I'm skeptical on whether any of those guys in the men's race actually knew what the finish line was. Um, but we know where it is now, Kate. So this is probably one of the matches we've seen in the women's racing for a sprint.
Yeah, it is a solid bunch. And the twisty turnies, I think, are an interesting period because you don't really get a gauge on what anybody else is doing. Bemrose made perhaps a little error in going so early, using the little pinch up, hoping that would get him a bit of a gap. Scolari almost perfectly set up Kyle Marwood to chase him back. Looks like the women aren't necessarily going to make the same mistake, but it is a big bunch. And so there will be a little bit of looking around and who will go first. Given that Arnold is not there, so, I mean, I think everyone would be looking at McGarry here. She needs to play this smart.
Yep, absolutely. Jen Arnold not being in this bunch certainly opens us up a bit more as well. Audrey Braun is one to look for as well. She's got A.U. Dree. You can see on the right-hand side, about six, just below Kate Spicy. That is Audrey Braun. She's one to look out for as well. She placed in one of the sprints at the beginning, but she hasn't been there in the next few sprints, so maybe she's just holding back a little bit. But yeah, the timing is everything. They haven't gone through the Nyoko arcade yet. I love the arcade. I just think, I mean, these graphics are just unbelievable. Shout out to
They
whoever's
are
got
very
that
cool.
afro.
Well, and
I
pretty
love the afro.
fitting, actually, that Kate Spicy says she's from Dub Vegas, which I believe is Dubbo Cycling Club. But a bit of Dub Vegas
Yep.
going through this arcade is very fitting, isn't it?
It is.
They
It
need
is.
to.
And we saw the men
The finish
walking
line
here.
comes pretty quickly after this, so they do need to start to put a little bit more pressure on because the acceleration, they'll lose someone. If somebody just goes here, Kate Spicy. Look at that. Dub Vegas, inspired by the lights of the Neokyo Gaming Hall. She's gone. McGarry,
Look
she's
at
not
that.
getting away from her, though.
She's
Will
used to
push all the
power
way to
up.
the line, dare I say, but McGarry is in the prime position.
It looks like we're going to have a sprint of these three here now. Panaguio is super fast, the South American. Now she's using her power up with a double kick. Looks like Spicy's cooked. Panagui's there. McGarry trying to get back in the wheel, but over the top, the South American. Can she hold on? She does. Just beating her teammate from the Randwick Cycling Club, Marjan McGarry, who is the sprint lord or lordette of this particular race, along with Jen Arnold. But that was a very good race from the women's, I have to say. That was probably one of the better women's races we've seen. A bit of a points race, we'll call this. We're going to see a replay, Kate. This is just
Yeah,
before they
this
go
is
through, but this is Marwood.
well, this is where Bemrose, in my learned opinion, Jet, maybe went a little bit
Yep.
too early. Velo kicks, Mr. Squilari. He was the one who thought, oh, this is danger, and pushed ahead. But in doing so, he gave Marwood a perfect platform to launch off. At this point, Marwood wasn't
Look at him
even in the
go.
picture, but look at him. It's like he got slingshot off
Yeah.
Squilari's lead out. Bemrose had nothing. He didn't go over 7.5 watts per kg, while Marwood was up well into the orange. And I think that is our winning moment right there. It was a long way to the line for Marwood after that, but he kind of crushed, in that one acceleration, Jet, he kind of crushed the spirit of his breakaway companions.
He certainly did. It was kind of like a young Jethro running to the booth to cash in his time zone tickets back in the day. I'm not sure if you have time zone tickets over there, but that's kind of like your arcade here. But
Yep.
got to get that
Yep. No,
mustache
I
comb.
don't know if they still exist, to be honest. But yes, I am well aware of what it is. And I think of everything that happens throughout the race, really, Marwood won that race for the men in about 10 metres. So I think that you need to be really vigilant. But if you've got a plan and that plan is to time that final sprint perfectly, then it's just about getting yourself in the right position and being a bit patient. I don't blame Nick Scolari for chasing either. He had to when Bemrose attacked. That was the only chance he had. But, you know, it ended up just being the perfect launch pad for him to go.
Yeah, I mean, he blew the doors off him. Really, that's really what it looked like. And the sprints throughout the race really made it quite interesting. I was really happy with the new format. I think the bonus sprint segments in the course make it a little bit more exciting, and it actually kept the race together.
Yeah, I think it does. And you're right. Like, in one way, you think that those kind of intermediate sprints will break it up because everybody's so tired. But what I think it means is that even the fittest of riders question the wisdom of sprinting and then keeping going. And so you do often have a bit of a yo-yo effect where they're sprinting and mostly they're sitting up, and it allows some of the riders who aren't sprinting to maybe look after themselves a little bit more and maybe then save themselves for that final sprint. So a little bit more strategy comes into it, I think. I mean, I'm a points racer from way back, Jet, so you can't really convince me that there's any other way to do it other than a race with intermediate sprints. I mean, I'll hear arguments, but I think that was a really great way to kick this season back off because we are in race 7, but we've had a bit of a break. So it's good to get everyone's heart rate up. Everyone's ready now. Heart starter, as they call it at the carnivals.
Well, 3 sprints in 9 minutes, your heart's going to be, you're going to be tasting it, that's for sure. And Jen Arnold had an experience with that where she was picking up all the sprints, dusting them. And then in the second lap, we saw her, the clutch was in, she was absolutely cooked. And she used her strategy well because she got as many points as she could. Speaking of points,
yeah.
I wonder, we might have maybe the placings come up soon because I've kind of forgotten who's finished 1, 2, 3. Oh, I see. So if you want to see the results, you can look on Zwift Power as well, so you can see the power outputs and, of course, who came first, second, and third. But Kate, we've got to do a Bilby Award, don't we?
I know. We do. I mean, I think I was unfortunately with all the tech, I missed a few kilometers early, but I think it would be really hard, from my view, for our honey badger and golden bilby. For our honey badger, could we really go past Kyle Marwood? I mean, that acceleration, it was like that emoji where the head explodes. And
well,
you have to think on the women's side.
Of the day.
Yes. He was the Marcus Soler of the day. And on the women's, I mean, for me, McGarry just found something a little bit extra at the end. But I know Jen Arnold had a cracking start. So Golden Bilby isn't just about who wins or who performs in the back end.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Jen Arnold for the Golden Bilby. She threw it all on the line, and then we saw on the rider cams, she was absolutely melted. She's probably kind of collapsed over the bike right now, as you would be with 6 or 7 sprints in 20 minutes. But look, the first round, Kate, I think it was a success. The sprint bonus sprint format. I'm looking forward to next week, and I guess we'll say thanks for you for coming along, and we'll be back again next Thursday.
Looking forward. We'll see you soon.